Well, good morning, everyone. Emily, Yushi, and myself are really excited to present what we've been working on for this semester, and we're excited to have our main contact, Tanny, on the call this morning. So we have been working with ICSI for the semester, and if you don't remember, they are the Institute for Clinical System Improvements, and they are a healthcare collaborative organization, or what you'd call a backbone organization. So that essentially means that they are a space that brings together different healthcare organizations throughout the state into a common space so that they can come up with and collaboratively address problems in the healthcare field, because the things that they are working on are not really possible to address with one solo organization. So to exemplify that, they've worked on opioid abuse, COVID, of course, in the last year, and are currently looking to work on racial equity in healthcare in Minnesota. And so when we first met with ICSI, we learned that next month they are doing a strategic planning session and that value propositions is on the agenda. So that's what we have been focusing our work with, is helping them prepare for that session and giving them some information to work with. So today we're going to tell you what our goal was for the semester, how we approached reaching our goal, and then we've got a lot of results and data to look into with you, as well as some recommendations based on that. So overall, we were hoping to answer two questions throughout the semester. So the first was, how do ICSI members perceive the value that they get from ICSI? And how can ICSI use data to make improvements for their members? So what we did is we created a survey with a number of different questions to get as much information as we could from members to hear about what they're currently feeling, what initiatives they work on with ICSI, how long they've been working with them, and a number of different things like that. So overall, we were able to send out 377 surveys, and we gave 10 days for responses. And within those 10 days, we got 76 total valid responses. And by valid, I mean that we had to throw out a couple of the responses we got because they were half started, not even close to finished. So 76 valid responses, which we are happy with, because it puts us at about a 20% response rate. And we've learned that survey response rates typically fall within 5 to 30%. So we were pretty up there, which we were happy with. And then to kind of look at who we got answers from. So the survey was anonymous, but we asked what kind of organizations people were from, as well as what their role was at the organizations. And we can see here that we got a lot of C-suite level members to respond, as well as some other roles, which are listed in order on the side there. And then one thing to note is most of the respondents came from the healthcare delivery category. Perfect. And then the bulk of our presentation is just going to be analyzing what we got out of this survey. So we did 3 different kinds of analyses: quantitative, qualitative, and then a business analysis to help with that strategic planning session that they're doing next month. So with that, we're going to start showing you all of our results.
All right, so I really dived into this quantitative analysis. And so the survey had lots of different questions on it. Some of them were, how do you feel about this or this? But these are the, on a scale of this, or select all that apply questions. And so really what we were trying to get at is just quantifying just overall attraction towards ICSI. So for this one in particular, we were looking at the initial value of joining ICSI. And this kind of indicates then ICSI's mission to an extent. These results were pretty expected by ICSI. So that's encouraging that the participants and the members are joining for the correct reasons. Later, though, there's a question relating to the actual value. So this question is interesting to keep in mind to try to measure, is the mission being fulfilled? Is the actual equal to the expected? And so we just really tried to make this clear to the board members and do lots of comparison based on this question in particular. Yeah, and then also a question about engagement departments too was helpful, just to understand where the mission's functioning and where maybe we need more people or the priorities being met. Also, something interesting that we noticed too is the COVID response, and then trying to think strategically, okay, we have X number of people who are really deeply involved in the COVID response. How do we shift them into new categories or retain them, especially if in the select all that apply question, that was the only one they answered. So looking at problems surrounding that. This is the value received question, and this was really interesting. Um, in hindsight, I wish I would have made these question the initial value and then the actual value. I wish I would have had the answers line up a little bit better, but again, this was really interesting just to understand lots of different data points here. You know, shared understanding of common problems was huge, and that's, you know, a big part of what ICSI does. But then also looking at the response that didn't get quite as many, you know, selections is helpful for trying to boost the organization and make sure that there's an overall value in all the categories rather than just only hitting a few key points. And this is one of those matrix questions that I thought was really interesting. So it's, you know, on a scale of 1 to 4, how do you feel ICSI performs at doing this? And so I, you know, assigned needs improvement, acceptable, satisfactory, and excellent with a number and came up with the averages. And so overall, ICSI does very well when it comes to communicating with groups and building relation, you know, all of the above here. You know, an average score of 3.36 is very high for questions like this. So just trying to understand then, you know, the highs and the lows and making sure all areas again are correctly targeted and getting the attention they need. And then very similar question here again. Interesting, the results here are even higher for this question. So ICSI's ability rather than ICSI's working group itself. So the lowest score here is 3.17. Sorry, my dog just sneezed. But yeah, overall, ICSI does really great at all of these things. Members are very happy with their membership in terms of these areas and really all areas, as we'll see more in the quantitative analysis as well, or the qualitative.
Okay, and we got a lot of text answers, and based on these texts, we formed our qualitative analysis. We made a word cloud from all their text answers, and the most popular word is collaboration, of course, because ICSI is working to form this collaboration. So that might be just the first thing people think of ICSI, the first thing when they think of ICSI. So network collaboration, and also we could see quality. So people do care a lot of and especially when we're dealing with the healthcare delivery people, they care a lot about quality. Either it's quality from their own work or the quality of ICSI's services. We get a lot of answers from the members asking specifically for improvements. The first one is they want consistent effort. I think it's a pretty universal thing from clients of nonprofit organizations. So they want consistent efforts because a lot of times these nonprofit organizations, they tend to be somewhat inconsistent, such as when they do a project, you have a lot of effort putting into this project. And when the project is done, a lot of times the efforts are not they don't have like a continuous effort going beyond the projects. And a lot of them asking for actionable projects. So, and also the next one, implementation. The members of ICSI a lot of times think they talk a lot. They have a lot of meetings. They discuss the ideas and concepts a lot, but they want to do things. So they ask specifically for actionable projects, and some even asking to to get a group of people together to fund new projects. So not just that they want to devote their time and energy, they also want to devote their money. So that's a good thing. That means they think ICSI can be trusted beyond just like time and energy. So implementation, they want to see measurable results, and they sometimes they can be pretty harsh. Like they ask questions like, is it more about building consensus, or do we want to see measurable results? But these are good answers. They really give us directions, and they want to see roadmaps for success with clear measurement plan that is standardized. And then another big part is communication. From our quantitative analysis, we could see a lot of members are pretty satisfied with the communication work ICSI provides, but they also ask a lot more in communication. They want to see how ICSI is impactful. They want to see the impact being measured. And this answer we think is really interesting. So this person says they're new to the group and they're not entirely sure the value ICSI can offer. So we wonder if ICSI can do more communication work before and before the projects and for newer members of their clients' organizations. So make their vision clearer. And we have members discussing economic costs versus perceived value. So maybe they can do more work in communicated value. So like how to really deliver the value to their members, so they think it's worth the membership fee. And more communication requests, reach out to key leaders, reach out to smaller organizations, and reach out to lawmakers. And they want to see publications. They want to see key outcomes being publicized, and they want to see the findings. And we were also wondering if they would like to see the results from our survey. And then there are some specific requests, a few focused on COVID vaccines, and there are other ones focusing on like trauma-informed care. So like specific requests that they think ICSI could help them build, and more trainings. And also we found out ICSI has strong loyalty in their members. And we could also see most people think ICSI provides strong value to community. So the total average is pretty high. We asked the question, we asked them to rate the engagement or value to community on the 0 to 100 scale. So we could see the total average is almost 80. And the healthcare delivery group average is 41, and the health plan average is also almost 80. So those two groups are the biggest partners of ICSI. And then we did a business analysis. Made this SWOT analysis and analyzed ICSI's strength, weakness, threats, and opportunities. And these things a lot of times are interchangeable when you have strength, and sometimes those strength can be the strength and threats can both be your opportunities. ICSI does have strong competitors in Minnesota. And from this analysis, we concluded that ICSI's opportunities are in communication with members, and also more resources, and to use these resources to build a better network for their members. And we worked on the business model canvas. and we found out the two big parts that they need to make improvements on. One is key activities. So based on their members' requests, they want to have more actionable projects. And then another part is customer relationship. So maybe ICSI could look into developing like a customer care program to strengthen the customer relationship. And then we made our recommendation. Based on the analysis, ICSI can produce some qualitative and quantitative evaluations, and these surveys can be on an ongoing basis. And then they need to design and develop actionable and measurable projects, and design some member care program, and add more trainings and meaningful meetings and social events, and connect with researchers in Minnesota, and then work on fee structure based on the value and cost evaluations. And more questions to ask is how to do all these things. So evaluation, we might even want to figure out what the actual costs are to the members. Is it just the membership fees, or is it more than that? Their time, their energy, how much do they think their effort is worth the membership? And then measurement, how to measure all these things, how to measure impact. And then how to let people know the value, long-term value, and long-term values to long-time members, new members, and the employees of their member organizations. And that concludes our analysis about ICSI. And welcome any questions.
I had a question. What was the best part about working with ICSI this semester?
I think there are a lot of things that we learned from this whole process. So in the beginning, it was kind of hard for us to figure out what ICSI does. So it took us quite a few meetings to even just figure that one out. But then eventually we concluded that ICSI could totally become, we call it the WHO of Minnesota. So ICSI is like doing the work WHO is basically doing for the world, but ICSI can do it for Minnesota. So it is broad and kind of vague if you like just come into touch with ICSI for the first time. But as we could see WHO as a strong public health organization in the world, ICSI could totally be in that role as well.
So this is Tawny. May I speak to the flip side of that? What was best for us at ICSI and working with the Carlson team? So, I mean, one, you're all delightful. So that was great. A huge value to us is that you asked questions that maybe we were not asking ourselves, right? We're in the water, we're swimming in the water, and we know it, we think, right? So your fresh eyes and questions were really important. And your diagnosis of here's what your members are saying about ICSI and here's where you need to work, spot on. And we had a committee member of our board, board chair. He's been on a part of ICSI for the past 25 years. He said exactly that. You diagnosed ICSI right on. So you asked us to ask the hard questions, which, that was extremely important. So I just want to thank you all for this. This analysis is going to be very helpful in our strategic planning process.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And Yushi, as you talked about, I think, many organizations that are struggling to, articulate all that they do to their clients and constituents, as you have those learnings throughout the semester, it's so important to give that feedback to the organization and share, when there's that light bulb moment of, oh, you've connected the dots, that helps the organization in, you know, their ability to then articulate it in that fashion or whichever way resonated with you as well. So thank you, great job this semester. If there's any other questions, we'll take them now. Otherwise, we will move on to the next group. All right, great work. And up next is Peris Housing.
Okay, so our team, we're going to talk about Peris Housing and our project making a communication plan for their opening. So I'll start by doing introductions. I'm Lewis, and I'm joined by Evan Marie on the Peris Housing team. So a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today. We'll start off with an introduction to Peris Housing and the affordable housing industry. Next, we'll kind of go into the goal of our projects and research we did to support our work. And we'll finish up with our recommendations and kind of the future for Peris Housing. So starting off with, what is Peris Housing? So Peris Housing is a new housing development that's coming up in the Lower Hill neighborhood, opening in fall 2021. It was established by the Graves Foundation to tackle two big concerns in the Twin Cities housing market. The first is that it's innovative in that it sets aside 15 of its units for youth aging out of the foster care system. So it's serving as their first apartment as they're making this transition. And the other issue it tackles is that the other 30 units are affordable housing for adults who meet that area median income limit. And so with all of this, Peris is really the first housing development of its kind to make that intentional community between youth aging out of foster care and other tenants. Moving into kind of the overview of Peris and its operations and its business model. For the context of this project, we'll specifically be focusing on that right side. So since Peris is really community focused, it'll be important to understand those different consumer segments, mostly the youth aging out of foster care and low income individuals. And with that, we'll also have to know which channels are best to reach those different audiences, since not all of them respond to the same outreach in the same way. And last, consumer relationships are a big part of how Peris works because it seeks to create that community between tenants. And now I'll pass it off to Marie to talk more about the affordable housing industry.
Yeah, so I'll start with a little background information specifically on affordable housing here in Minneapolis. So Minneapolis's population is continuing to grow, but the supply of houses simply cannot keep up with the demand. We found that there is a 97% occupancy rate among Minneapolis apartments, only with a vacancy rate of 2.8%. So as a result, houses for sale are listed at extremely high prices that can be challenging for some to afford. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, in Minnesota, 28% of renters identify as extremely low income, and there's a shortage of over 101,000 rental homes. So to provide next a little background on youth aging out of foster care. So when kids turn 18, they age out of the foster care system and often struggle to find safe and stable housing. Many may experience homelessness during the first couple years or throughout their lifetime. They are also over 9 times less likely to obtain a degree from a university, which can affect job opportunities, income level, things like that, showing that it's all part of a really cyclical system that makes it difficult to succeed without the basics of a stable home environment. I also want to call out that there is a disproportionate number of Black and Brown youth in the foster care system. In Hennepin County alone, there are almost 1,400 kids in the foster care system, and a majority are in their teens and are people of color. So I'll now pass it off to Evan.
Awesome, thank you. So moving forward to Peris Housing's value proposition, for product and services, they're going to offer 45 studio and single bedroom apartments with a bathroom and kitchenette in each. 15 of those are dedicated to 18 to 21-year-olds who are aged out of the Hennepin County foster care system. There will be 24/7 on-site youth support staff, and it is in that central Lowry Hill location. For our customer segment, we're searching, so people searching for community-based housing in that central location with a very strong emphasis on mentorships and community-based education. We're looking for individuals in the Twin Cities area with that 50 to 60% AMI. Moving forward to gains and gain creators. So Peris Housing is really going to offer tenants access to housing, a roof over their heads, and somewhere to spend their time with like-minded individuals. They'll be able to save money, which will give them a sense of security and control with that low cost. And that kind of central location will give them access to transit lines, bike lines, and a vibrant community. Our gain creators are community, education, reliability and transportation, and centrality within Minneapolis. Our pains kind of are focused more on the affordable housing industry. So affordable housing can come with less than desirable amenities, including limited parking and expensive laundry facilities, if any. And in Minneapolis, it fills up extremely fast and there is a waiting list. It can be very difficult to find, and the more affordable it is, the farther it tends to be away from the city center. And landlords often don't have the best interest of their tenants in mind, and people can get caught in bad leases that can kind of follow them financially. And not to mention that living on your own in a non-community-based environment can be extremely lonely. I think we all kind of saw that with COVID-19. So it's really important to live in a place with like-minded individuals who really care about your future. So some pain relievers. So we're really gonna offer a lot of amenities, on-site support for youth tenants, laundry and unit, and that really convenient location with access to city transit. There'll be 24/7 front desk staff, which are obviously supportive and caring, and really offer a safe, COVID-19 safe, and just a place of like-minded individuals who really care about each other's future, and in a safe and very historic neighborhood.
So with all that said, our team is here to create a marketing plan to attract the ideal tenants for Peris. Peris is partnering with different organizations to fill those 15 youth units. So we're specifically focusing on filling those 30 units available to adult tenants. Going into this project, we had 4 major considerations to keep in mind. First, we wanted to reach those underrepresented communities in need of affordable housing. Since a large portion of youth in foster care come from those underserved communities, we wanted the adult tenants to reflect that diversity. We also want those adult tenants to be role models for the youth aging out of foster care. So the ideal tenants would be community and career oriented to be part of this community. Additionally, we wanted to explore a pretty broad range of channels and really think outside the box in terms of how we reach our audience. And last, we wanted to consistently represent Peris across all different aspects of our communication plan. And with that, I'll pass off to Murray to talk more about our research.
Yeah, so for primary research, we met with over 10 different people that we kind of separated into different categories. We met with 3 of Peris's partner organizations and learned about VOA's role in managing the building, C2I's work with the youth and preparing them for living on their own through different supportive classes, and also the Link's role by working at Peris and providing services down the road. We met also with a couple local businesses here, and they were very excited about Peris and wanted to learn more and also use their own network to help promote about it and help us find tenants. We also met with some industry experts from Habitat for Humanity who really told us the importance of conveying a consistent message across marketing channels and also clearly communicating the eligibility to make sure we're finding the best tenants to fit Peris's really unique community. Last, we met with local community members and learned that the best way to reach a diverse group of people is to do outreach to those specific communities and meet people where they're at. So on this next slide, I'll now kind of compare differences we found between marketing strategies for for-profit organizations versus nonprofits. So it's important to say that no matter what industry you're in order to be an effective marketer, you must understand who your target market is and understand the best ways to target them that will be most effective. Social media marketing and paid ads are extremely popular and effective today. However, this can get expensive for nonprofits if they have a limited budget or resources. So as Lewis said, we have to get creative and kind of think of a bunch of different channel options. So we think Peris and nonprofits should focus on creating great content over investing in paid ads, along with creating and putting up print marketing, such as flyers in the local community to help kind of spread the word and create buzz.
Awesome. So moving forward to our recommendations, we separated into 4 types of media. paid media, earned media, shared, and owned. You can kind of look at the examples. So first, we're going to start with earned. Well, radio usage varies with many different demographics and geographics. According to our research, it was important for Peris Housing to utilize this method of earned media in order to gain more potential applicants. KMOJ offers 15 hours per week dedicated to community affairs like Peris Housing. It was clear that KMOJ will have definitive interest in having a member from Peris Housing speak about the opportunity and application process. Offering a 30-minute to 1 hour just kind of piece on the ins and outs of Peris Housing will help to generate attention among many different communities within Minneapolis and St. Paul. Moving into newspapers, Minneapolis' Star Tribune reached out with interest in writing a piece closer to the project's open date and application. This piece would highlight Peris's missions, ideal outcomes, and information for potential applicants. There's over 250,000 daily Star Tribune readers. As a result, Peris Housing will see a dramatic increase in applications and impressions from this piece. This article would also be written at no expense to Peris Housing's budget. We also identified Hill and Lake Press and Minnesota Spokesman Recorder are two good local newspapers and magazines to reach out to. They both have a more local reach and would be a great place to post a story or promotional materials. For example, Hill and Lake Press is sent out to 5,000 homes and 1,000 businesses monthly in the Southwest Minneapolis area. Moving to owned media, we really wanted to organize our social media. So we kind of separated it so it's not just random. We separate it 3 days a week. So on Mondays, we really want to focus on advertising to our tenants. That would include promotional materials and just any application information that they need to know. Wednesday, we wanted to do project updates. This is already posted on Peris Housing Facebook page. We kind of wanted to translate it onto Instagram and just kind of update our followers on what's happening with the project. And on Fridays, we really wanted to highlight people of Peris. This would highlight not only residents, but workers of Peris, and just kind of help build that sense of community engagement and really show our followers that it is a really vibrant community. And then continuing with owned media, we're suggesting that Peris continues to use its Facebook page, but post more information and marketing materials on it besides project updates like Instagram. Additionally, Peris Housing should join different housing and affordable housing Facebook groups for people in the Twin Cities area. Peris could post something similar to this mock-up above and connect with people on Facebook. Eventually, they could create their own Facebook group and tenants can join it. It could definitely be a community on Facebook as well. Additionally, they should join and create a Twitter account and tweet about affordable housing, the application process, their missions, and foster care as a whole. The goal of Twitter is to create tweets that are shareable and informative, with hopes for important politicians and community members to retweet them and help spread the word about Peris and affordable housing in general. And lastly, we really wanted to highlight on our owned media, our content calendar. So a content calendar will really help to organize and schedule our social media posts on the variety of social medias that we outlined. It will help measure the cost of each post, the captions that it will have, the status of that post, the image that's being posted, if there is one, and what social media it's going on. Each day, like I mentioned, is going to have that different theme, especially on Instagram. And then within each post, it's going to kind of have relevant hashtags to use for that social media. So for example, if a certain hashtag is more popular on Twitter than Instagram, it would be highlighted on that post as opposed to the other post. This will have staff, Courtney and staff will have easier access to organize the cost and community engagement of all the posts. And they will need to be approved by staff before posting, which gives a lot of oversight. And just kind of to show from left to right, it's going to show the date, the caption, what hashtags we're using, and then posting time, the photo, what social media, and then the budget for each post. And then what day is what.
Cool. So moving into another part of our communications plan, which is building genuine relationships and kind of partnering with local organizations. This is for ongoing communication and outreach help, but also to recruit members of these organizations to be potential tenants. And we found 3 main types of organizations that we'd like to reach out to. The first is neighborhood organizations, and this would benefit us because it reaches over 17 neighborhoods in the Uptown area, and they have a really contextualized understanding of how to reach their residents. Next is local nonprofits in the Uptown area. Each of these serve their own unique communities and demographics, so it would be a great way to get that targeted outreach. Last is community spaces like libraries, parks, and basically any place that people gather. And these are great places to flyer and build connections kind of on a broader base. And for each of these, we create outreach templates to kind of streamline how we reach out to them.
Yeah, so the last type of media is paid media, and we look specifically at print marketing, which can be shared in the local community. Here's a mock-up of a poster about Peris Housing with information on what it is and also how to learn more. It's important to provide accurate information in a concise manner that doesn't promote any guarantees we can't promise, such as safety. It's also important to use language that empowers the tenants and provides dignity. And then kind of the second piece to print marketing is the location. So we want to make sure that Peris puts up posters and things like that around local businesses that share a similar target audience as Peris to be most effective. Louis will now touch on the budget.
So in terms of paid media and budget, we talked about our general social media strategy, and now here's about how we're planning to do paid social media. So we're planning for a budget of $200 for social media and $500 for Google AdWords displays. What this does for Peris is it really brings it to people's attention, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, or in a Google search engine. And these are both available on a cost per click basis, so it's really easy to control the budget and reallocate when necessary. The last aspect of our budget is printing. So for promotional flyers, pamphlets, and anything we want to bring out into the community. So the overall budget for our project was $10,000, but we went with a monthly breakdown for Peris because with housing, there's times where you won't be recruiting new tenants as actively, so you won't need to dedicate as much spending to those months. So on the left is an example of a Google AdWords campaign with metrics using the words affordable housing, Minneapolis studio, and rentals. So as you can see, you can get a different level of engagement and traffic depending on how much you pay per day. One lead that I wanted to touch on that didn't necessarily work out is Metro Transit advertising. We had found that a big portion of our target audience used public transport, so we wanted to reach them. We contacted the advertising agency that works with Metro Transit, but we found out that the minimum spend for advertisements would be $10,000, so 100% of our budget. So while we did not decide to go with that avenue, it was a valuable lead, and we're still confident that we can reach our target audience without this method. So now moving into how we'll measure success of our plan. So our main indicator of success will be if all units are filled by fall 2021. Since that's really broad, we also wanted to keep track of which of our measures were most effective. So one really easy way to do that is to ask each applicant, where did you hear about Peris Housing? This will give us an idea of whether they heard about it from social media, a newspaper ad, or some other channel that we did. So other measures that we'd like to keep track of are how many listeners and organizations we've reached through our different media strategies, and then also the rate at which tenants are staying with Peris Housing for a long time and the number of rental applicants that actually meet the criteria. This is important because if we're communicating all this information, we want to make sure that people feel like they've had all the information they need to be kind of pleased with Peris Housing.
So then to wrap us up quickly, we want to end with future plans for Peris Housing to kind of build and foster community. First, we want to build excitement for opening day. So we recommend something like a cookout or a fun celebration to really welcome and invite the tenants in, being COVID safe. The second piece is once Peris is open, we want to have a continued community. So food always brings people together, or just different fun community events like a weekly bingo in the lobby or things like that to get to know each other. Community will always be a big priority for Peris, but it's especially important in the first year open. As it becomes more established, Peris can work towards more official programs and mentorship opportunities between tenants. And that is all we have today. Thank you so much. We'll open it up for questions.
Great job, team. I know we have several members of the Peris Housing team with us, so I will let them go first.
Yeah, I'm Courtney, and I've had the great opportunity to work with the team. It certainly has opened my eyes to things like social media and just the various avenues and And the team did a great job of interviewing a lot of different people in the community to get various input along the way. So I don't have a question. I just will say I've really appreciated working with the team and have learned a lot beyond just hashtags and @signs, which is what the team hears me say all the time, but really have appreciated it. And we're going to be using the work going forward.
Yeah, great job, everyone. I really appreciated the emphasis on community partnerships and you breaking down what those different possibilities look like. I think that's going to be especially as important as I imagine demand is going to be very high and there's limited opportunity. So it's really about finding the ideal candidate and the ideal client. All right, if there's no other questions, I know we still have a full schedule ahead of us. So we can move on to wilderness inquiry.
Sounds good. Can you guys see my screen?
Perfect.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So today, me and my team are going to be talking about wilderness inquiry. So Wilderness Inquiry was founded in 1974 by Bill Simpson, Tom Rasmussen, and Greg from our class after they led a group of 14-year-old students on a trip to the Boundary Waters. Wilderness Inquiry was founded on the mission of connecting people from all walks of life to the natural world through shared outdoor adventures. They believe that outdoor adventures can break down the barriers that society has created and give people an opportunity to connect, grow, and gain awareness of both the environment and community integration. Today, the organization focuses on giving everyone the ability to enjoy the outdoors, regardless of the economic or physical barriers that might otherwise restrict them from those opportunities. So, introduction to our analysis that we're going to be giving you guys today. So several months ago, we met with Julie Edmondson, the Associate Executive Director of Wilderness Inquiry, and we had a really long meeting talking about what Wilderness Inquiry needs and what they wanted us to kind of go about finding out for them. And after several meetings, we identified 3 main issues that Wilderness Inquiry wanted our team to address. So the first one was updating their pricing strategy. The second was the conception of a membership program. And the third was strengthening their virtual trip offerings, which became especially relevant after COVID-19. So first analysis we're going to be talking about is pricing. So Wilderness Inquiry came up to us and expressed the concern that they believe that their prices were too low, which is fair because they are a nonprofit, and so they aren't necessarily in it to get the money that way a private organization would. And so they thought that it was possible that they were priced well below market average, which is, they're kind of in an interesting position. There's 2 main customer segments that Wilderness Inquiry caters to. One are people who are eligible for financial aid who receive trip discounts. Those are kind of the constituents mentioned earlier, those who might not normally economically or physically be able to access the outdoors. But then Wilderness Inquiry also does trips for typical families or groups of people who are not eligible for financial aid, and they pay full price for the guided and outfitted trip that they provide. So the question is if Wilderness Inquiry is priced below market value, and they're giving financial aid to many people who are eligible anyways, is there a way to raise the price so that people who aren't eligible for financial aid can pay more, and in that way they can make more money to then distribute to people who do require financial aid? So the question that our team wanted to answer is Wilderness Inquiry really below the market price? And if so, exactly how much are they below the market price? So I'm going to go into kind of how we went about researching their prices. So what we did is we took Wilderness Inquiry's, all their options, or most of their trip offerings, and we tried to find at least 2 competitors for each trip. So I have kind of an example of one of their trips down here. So this one I did the Superior Hiking Trail, and which is a lodge-based hike. And we took the average cost per day of Wilderness Inquiry, and then we found 2 different competitors that offered similar trips. What I mean by similar trips is, as you can expect, there's a ton of different options for guided outfitting trips. Some of them put you up in luxury hotels. Some of them give you a campsite. Some of them are 1 day, some of them are 6 days. And so in order to kind of find one metric that you could use to compare across everything, we got it to the average cost per day per person. So for this trip, I believe it was a 5-day trip off the top of my head. So the Wilderness Inquiry option was $125 a day. And then the 2 competitors, we brought them down to the same metric as well. And then we averaged the competitors to see kind of an average market price. And then we compared that to Wilderness Inquiry. So in this case, Wilderness Inquiry was 8% less expensive. And we kind of did that for, I believe, 10 or 12 of their different trips, just to kind of get an idea of how much less expensive they were and by how much they were. So our findings, so on average, Wilderness Inquiry is priced 45% less than their competitors. However, it differs greatly between regions. So for example, Wilderness Inquiry is actually only within 6% of the average for Superior Hiking Trail, and is actually above the market average for the Apostle Islands, which was kind of very interesting to find out that they were more expensive than one particular location. Then other areas such as the Boundary Waters and the St. Croix River are 50% below the average. And then something else that was interesting is Wilderness Inquiry offers a lot of out-of-state national park trips. For example, they have Glacier National Park and Yellowstone National Park that they offer trips on. And for out-of-state national parks, Wilderness Inquiry was absolutely less expensive than pretty much all competitor options, but the differences in prices was extreme because national parks are so popular and there's so many different outfitters competing to have guided tours for those parks in particular. Some offerings were extremely expensive and they were a month long, and some were almost the same price as Wilderness Inquiry, but had very different offerings. So while Wilderness Inquiry was definitely a cheaper option for out-of-state national parks, determining exactly how much less expensive they were was very difficult because there were so many differences in each offering. So then our recommendations, I have this graph here that kind of divides things up by regions. There was kind of 3 different areas. There was these more local state parks like the Boundary Waters, St. Croix River, Namakagon River. Those had more of those were more similar in how much below the market average they were. That averaged out to 60%. And then they had the Apostle Islands and the Superior Hiking Trail, for some reason, were either at average or in Wilderness Inquiry was more expensive. And then out-of-state national parks really varied a lot. So we put those in their own category, and we have different recommendations for each one. So for things like the Boundary Waters and the Namakagon River, we recommend a 20% increase in price. As you can see, that's much less than the market average. In theory, Wilderness Inquiry could increase their prices 58.89%, but we felt that would be very drastic. So we recommended a 20% increase in those prices. For Apostle Islands and Superior Hiking Trail, we recommend a 0% change. While technically the Apostle Islands is a little bit more expensive, we don't think that there's any reason for them to lower their prices for that. And then out-of-state national parks, it's clear that has the most opportunity for a price increase. So we recommend that one takes a 30% increase in price. So as far as how we recommend Wilderness Inquiry to implement these pricing strategies, we recommend a slow implementation process based off our pricing recommendations. As you could see kind of from the graphs I could show you, is that Wilderness Inquiry was well priced below the market average, very aggressively, 60, 50, in some cases they were 120% below what other people were offering. And we believe that practically doubling their prices would be very extreme, and we don't believe that it would really achieve the goal that they have set out, which is to kind of gather more financial aid for people who need it. So we recommended smaller pricing strategies. And perhaps one of the bigger takeaways they can take from all this is that the knowledge that future price increases are possible at later times. We recommend something small for now, but if things are to change in the future, we believe that they should take away the knowledge that they're able to increase their prices more if needed. So yeah, that's kind of that's how we recommend them implementing the pricing changes. So I'm going to pass it off to Alex to talk about the membership program.
Yes, now we'll get into the second part of sort of our recommendations. And when we were discussing this with Julie, right off the bat, it was sort of, well, does it make sense for Wilderness Inquiry to implement a membership program? And in those discussions, we sort of established, okay, what are the objectives of this membership? And that really was building community and increasing engagement, unless not so much of like establishing a new revenue stream. We also wanted to build upon Wild Network. So that's a program that Wilderness Inquiry already has. As of now, it's more of like a discount channel for partners of Wilderness Inquiry. So like if there's a trip that's coming up very soon that still has capacity, they're the first ones to sort of get these discounts on it. But this has sort of gone through a couple different like iterations and proposals, some of which have tried turning Wild Network into like a more traditional payment-based membership. So we wanted to build onto Wild Network, sort of like those similar proposals before. We also wanted to look at competitors. So, were competitors offering memberships? And if they were, what did those look like? Most of them did offer memberships, and we think these three are pretty representative of what we found. So, notice like all of these are payment-based, from $25 per member to $75 per member. The main draw for these are discounts, whether it's discounts on lodging, discounts on activities, discounts on trips. That's really the main draw behind these memberships and the incentive behind joining them. Then also, it's sort of interesting, like the revenue, that's not the main reason behind us wanting to implement a membership, but it is intriguing that these organizations, about 10% of their revenues come from the membership programs, which is a considerable amount. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then just sort of the main takeaways from what we looked at, after our discussions with Julie and after looking at the competitors, we wanted to make sure we're defining success through engagement. Like, are people that are in the membership, are they participating? So really, yeah, like building community, that was the main focus. And that's what we discussed a lot with Julie. And with that, we needed to figure out how we're going to incentivize participation with this membership program. We also wanted to make it very clear we don't want any sort of like formalized division between members and non-members. We really want to avoid any sort of pay-to-play environment. That was sort of something that seemed sort of problematic about other organizations, especially if you saw earlier Minnesota Rovers Outdoors, that was one where you had to be a member in order to participate in any sort of overnight trip. We just feel like that sort of goes against Wilderness Inquiry's values and goals. When inclusivity is so central to organization, it seems problematic to stick all these features and activities behind this paywall that's just for members. So that's something we really wanted to avoid. And then next we'll sort of get into sort of our proposal. Yeah, so for our membership that we're proposing, to become a member, we really wanted this to be participation based and not payment based. So once somebody participates in 2 Wilderness Inquiry trips, that establishes their eligibility for the membership. And then if they do accept that offer, they have a 24-month period to renew that membership through participating in another Wilderness Inquiry trip. And the main benefits for these members would be access to discounts on the upcoming trips, which is already part of Wild Network. Sort of this blanket 10% discount on domestic Wilderness Inquiry trips. That'd probably be the main incentive to join. And that would sort of counterbalance with the increase in pricing that we're proposing. You could also just offer a free Wilderness Inquiry shirt and water bottle, just a little merch. And then also sort of incorporating the virtual events that Matt will get into, but then also the Inquiry Series. That's a new program very recently launched by Wilderness Inquiry. So these seminars about inclusivity in the outdoor space. we want those recordings to be accessible for the members on demand. And then just implementing the membership. First, we want to make sure that people know that the membership exists. So notifying any currently eligible people that have been on wilderness inquiry trips, notifying anyone that's on the existing mailing list for wilderness inquiry. And then once somebody does participate in a trip, sending them sort of follow-up emails as to next steps to become a member. And then just integrating into the website from a technical level shouldn't be super difficult. On the online trip registration form, it would just be a checkbox for members, just to make sure that they are getting the benefits that they're entitled to. And then creating a wild network page on the website that could just be under the programs and impact dropdown, just a link to that web page. And then next we'll be getting into the virtual trips with Matt.
Yeah, here we have our third and final analysis, which is the virtual trips that Wilderness Inquiry has recently sort of integrated into their offerings. And the virtual trips kind of came about as an offering, as like an alternative to their in-person trips due to the COVID restrictions that were put in place this last summer. What we think is that even though this was sort of offered as an answer to the restrictions that were in place, that these could really become a staple of the offerings that Wilderness Inquiry has as part of their as part of what they offer in these experiences. And yeah, so moving on to as far as the internal research goes, Wilderness Inquiry currently charges about $10 a person for the adult sessions, and they also run youth educational sessions, and these are currently free for Minnesota youth. As long as you are an in-state child, you are able to register for free for their educational youth sessions. And what they do for these sessions is that you're sent like a link to a Zoom room, as well as a kit that you will be able to use through the throughout the experience, that virtual tour, that sort of like walks you through all of the different stops and educational things, like a little workbook and different sort of tools that you can use in order to better educate yourself. And out of these the kits that they bought last year, they do these in bulk orders, and the total of the kits came to almost $2,000 last year. And if not all the kits are sold, like if you don't get as many people signing up as kits that were ordered, those kits just end up going onto the books as cost, as well as the storage fee that it's going to take for Wilderness Inquiry to keep those in stock. So that kind of leads into, these are two different alternatives that we kind of found that are most similar to what we're proposing. Up here we have the Rhodes Scholar trips, and the Rhodes Scholar trips offer live virtual domestic and international experiences that range from 3 to 10 days and cost between $350 and $500. And these are in a way similar to the live experiences and educational experiences that Wilderness Inquiry is currently offering. The trips that Rhodes Scholar offers are definitely longer in duration, but offer a broadly similar educational experience. So we thought that that was a pretty good benchmark, just as far as like daily pricing goes, for how much Wilderness Inquiry could reasonably charge for their live educational experiences. And then at the bottom here, you can see we have mobile permissions, which offers a range of recorded tours that are both domestic and international to all different destinations around the globe that range between $18 and $15 in cost. And these are just recorded tours. They're just behind the paywall. You just pay the $8 to $15 and you're able to access these recorded tours at just basically at your leisure. You don't have to log in at a certain time and go through that process of chunking out that time in your day to attend that kind of live tour. And so what we recommend is that Wilderness Inquiry kind of takes from both of these different ways of doing this, And we recommend that Wilderness Inquiry record their virtual tours while they present them, sort of in the Zoom room, just sort of hit that record button and keep that as a way to then re-offer those events at later dates to people who may have missed that original offering. And you could and charge that at a lower price. And this strategy would help to cover the costs of those kits, because if not all those kits are sold, again, that's just cost for Wilderness Inquiry that they need to factor in and store those kits. But if you're able to offer these experiences at a later date and get more people to really engage and become a part of these virtual experiences, you'd be able to sell more trips like year round. And this would also bolster the financial revenue that they're bringing in months that might be a little bit slower. A lot of the trips that they offer are kind of in the spring and summer months, and winter is a little bit of a slower time for Wilderness Inquiry. So these kind of recorded virtual trips could definitely be an opportunity to sort of bring in more revenue during those winter months and create a more consistent revenue stream. And these trips could be offered at a price kind of in line with those mobile permissions trips, sort of like a $5 to $10 range for those recorded tours. But we also recommend that the price of the live in-person, like live adult tours, be increased from $10 to between $20 and $25, and the youth trip be increased to $10 for those Minnesota youth. And we can still set up the kind of discounts that are used with the with the in-person trips on a need basis or on a group sign-up basis. Like if a family of if a group of 2 or maybe a family of 4 wanted to sign up together, that $20 to $25 price could be lowered to $15 a person if you wanted to sign up as a group. And not only would these costs help to, not only would this price help to cover the costs of the kits and the guides of these experiences, but it would also communicate that these are a really valuable educational experience for anybody who might want to participate. It just sort of communicates that level of value that's being offered through Wilderness Inquiry. And as far as the implementation of these prices goes, as far as the price increase, we sort of suggest that, again, sort of maybe a more gradual build up to that price range, and maybe even send an email or email out to members who have participated in this in the past, or putting a notice up on the website that announces that there will be a price change to these experiences, and sort of explain why it matches the value that's being offered. How the guides are very educated, very well trained in the arenas that they're touring, as well as what they're getting through the kits, and why the price that's being asked is on par with the value that's being delivered. And as far as the recordings go, this would be a little bit more difficult because you are like recording a live session with people in the room that would have to like agree or consent to their images being used in a paid product on the website. And for adult tours, this would be fairly easy to implement. You would just have to have a signed media release form from the tour participants saying that they're okay with their image possibly appearing in these recorded tours that would then be used as at later dates to be sold to other people who might be interested in the tour. So as long as you could get that signed media release, you wouldn't have an issue with the adult tours. But as far as the youth tours, obviously we want to avoid using the image or likeness of anybody under the age of 18 in a paid promotional tour or anything like that. So this would actually require a Wilderness Inquiry staff member to either go through and edit out any images and voices of the children in the rooms, just so that their image isn't being used. Or it would require like maybe a trial run of the experience where the guide just sort of goes through, does a dry run of the tour, sort of just goes through everything, maybe just like a practice run, get it all down, get that recorded, and then put that on the website for a recorded later date use. And then just sort of a summary of our recommendations in general. As far as pricing goes, we recommend a 30% increase in the price for out-of-state national parks, and a 0 to 20% increase on domestic trips on a program-to-program basis. For the membership program, we want to establish a membership program that incentivizes participation and engagement rather than like a paywall to access benefits. We want to reward repeat customers and engage people who want to come back and want to be part of like the wilderness inquiry community. That's kind of what we want to reward rather than just getting people to pay in order to get these discounts. And for the virtual tours, we recommend that Wilderness Inquiry records the virtual tours and then offers them at a discounted rate for later use. And we also recommend increasing the live event pricing to $25 for adults, $10 for children. But also, again, these prices could be negotiable as far as group pricing or need-based pricing. And just sort of final thoughts, Wilderness Inquiry has built a great reputation, a great business model over nearly 40 years of operations. And through the implementation of some or all of the suggestions that we have made, we believe that Wilderness Inquiry could become more competitive and less reliant on donations and grants to cover its operational costs. And continuing to adjust the offerings and pricings of their trips will ensure that this great organization will continue to offer the best experience to individuals of all walks of life for decades to come. That's all we have. I'm happy to open it up to questions or any comments that anybody might have.
I'm burning to say something, but I'll wait.
No, Kim, all you.
Can I go? Oh my gosh. I'm Kim Peris. I'm the executive director with Wilderness Inquiry, and this is just making my heart sing. I had this gut feeling like, wow, this is bargain basement, isn't it? But I didn't know. And you wise souls with your sophisticated approach to this whole thing is just it. I had texted that or chatted that I'd love to have you present to our board. I think Wilderness Inquiry, I'm looking at my dear friend and founder, Greg Lace. He's always had an entrepreneurial part of him, but we all have a heart for the mission. And so sometimes that can get lost as we grow and things get complicated. So this is just a clear-cut picture for us to go by. The membership piece, I loved what you did with that. I came from 36 years of the ARC, which is a national advocacy organization. 36 years of angst around that membership. So this is a nice way to do it because it really does. Our goal really was to build a stronger sense of community and engagement, and it was brilliant of you all. So that's awesome. And with the virtual programs, I was thinking about Rhodes Scholar because I was looking at that for something else. I'm like, well, we're doing that, you know. So I'm just, I have the goosebump factor of 110. So thank you all. Really awesome.
Thank you.
So let me
Thank you.
sign you up. I'll have to coordinate calendars to get you all in front of our board. And
Yeah.
I enjoyed everybody's presentation. I hope I wasn't intruding, but I took copious notes on the whole thing. It's very interesting. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I know all three of us would definitely be happy to work out a date that works to come in and present to the board if that's if you guys would like to move forward with that. Yeah, we'd all be happy to.
Wonderful. Very nice. And thanks to Greg for introducing us to Matt, and what a great group of folks. Exciting.
Great work. Yeah, team. I appreciated you breaking out the multiple customer segments and even the consideration about if there is going to be a price increase, how to integrate that into the current cost model and then the membership. I think great insights. Well, we do have one more presentation. Kim, if there's no other questions, I think that's great as well for the board presentation, and we'll leave it to the students and the team to connect on that date. And with that, want to make sure we're closing it out and have time for WeSparkle.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch, Matt. Can you guys see my screen all right? Cool. All right, I'm just gonna make sure I can see you guys on my screen. Alrighty, so we are the WeSparkle team. Thank you guys for joining us today. We're excited to share our project as we got to help WeSparkle design wireframes for the student assistant app that they're looking to venture into. So as we start, we wanted to just let you guys meet the team and start by introducing us all. So hi everyone, my name is Madison Fry. I'm graduating this year, just got a couple days left of class here. A senior majoring in HR/IR and public and nonprofit management.
Hi, I'm Audrey. I'm studying marketing and public nonprofit management. I'm a junior, so still got a year left with Ashley.
Ashley Wessler. I'm a junior and I study human resource development.
Awesome. Alrighty, so I'm happy to see that Michelle made it on the call today. We're excited to share our presentation with her. Before we get to dive in, I wanted to start with an agenda for today. So we'll start off with an introduction and provide some background on WeSparkle. Then we'll kind of jump into our project scope and how we approached the project with our plan. Then we'll dive into the meat of the presentation where we're excited to share some of our wireframe designs with you all. And we'll close out with some recommendations and kind of how the WeSparkle team can move forward as we hand off our portion of the project from here. So I will turn it over to Ashley to start with the intro.
So WeSparkle is an organization that created an app that works as an assistant for businesses. They use AI features to help save time and money for businesses. Their vision is to benefit small businesses by equipping them with tools that can help them grow. Some of their features of their current app include scheduling appointments, answering questions, encouraging reviews, and educating customers on the products or services of a business.
So we got the exciting task to help create the WeSparkle Student Assistant app, which is a student-centric version of their current app for business owners. Our goal for the project was to brainstorm some ideas around what should be included in the app, and then actually create wireframes that laid out how the app should function and what it should look like.
Alrighty, so we'll jump into the approach of our big project here. So when we first started working with Michelle from WeSparkle, she introduced us to this discover, design, develop, and deploy model. So that really framed our work moving forward. And our focus of the project is in the red in those discover and design stages. So within the discovery phase, we're really focused on research. So meeting with folks at WeSparkle to kind of get the vision, digging into the data, and really trying to understand the customer need and how we can best differentiate our product in the market. From there, we took all that we had discovered and learned and applied it to our designs of what we created for the wireframes for the student app. The remaining stages, the develop and deploy, are in the hands of the WeSparkle team, but we're hopeful that we set them up well on the front end here.
So as Madison described, we did a lot of research prior to our designing of our wireframes. This was part of our discovery phase. And so we collected research to create the wireframes by interviewing our points of contact, Michelle, and we also interviewed their intern, Jenny, and this gave us insight to what WeSparkle wanted to include in the app, and it helped us work collaboratively to come up with new ideas to include in our app to differentiate from other apps on the market. We wanted to research the other apps that were on the market, like My Study Life, GCal, and My Homework, so that we could find ways we could make ours different, see what's working with these apps and what's not, and help take that into our wireframes. And then the last part of our research was 180 Consultant. It's a club here at the U, and they worked on, I think a year ago, they collected a lot of data about WeSparkle by giving out a survey to students. So some of the key findings from that survey were that 42% of students struggle with time management and 77% use a calendar. So we can see that creating a calendar that helps incorporate time management skills would be helpful to students.
Alrighty, so jumping into the creation of the wireframes and how we kind of chunked out this. So when we were first introduced to this project, it kind of felt like a BHAG, if you're familiar with that term, a big, hairy, audacious goal. So we made sure to kind of chunk it out into manageable sections so that we could begin designing the wireframes and also feel a sense of progress so that we could divide it amongst each other as well. So we came up with these 4 sections for dividing up the wireframes that will exist within the app. So the first stage is kind of the introduction stage. So this is where what the user will experience after they first download the app. So kind of submitting their personal information and creating an account. The personalization stage next kind of follows where the user can customize their experience to their liking. So what notifications and reminders they will get within the app. Next is that day-to-day use section. So for here, we wanted to showcase what those notification screens will look like, what do the home screens look like, and how do I set goals? And then finally, the motivation stage. So this is something that's kind of embedded throughout the app, but we wanted to ensure that this portion was really deliberate. So we kind of chunked it out at the end here. So moving into our wireframes now, we're excited to show you guys some of the visuals of what we created. These are highlights of those 4 sections that I just mentioned. We had a lot, so we wouldn't have time to go through everything and kind of explain the purpose and all that, but wanted to give you guys a taste nonetheless. So we'll start here with the intro slides. Like I mentioned, this is kind of where the user starts. So what that experience is like when you first get into the app and start creating your profile. This first page here, Audrey made our cute little icon that will exist on your home screen. So after you open up the app from your home screen, you would be met with kind of a front loading page and just a welcome to the WeSparkle Student Assistant. And this is where it would collect your personal information. Either you can sign in if you have an existing account, or develop your new account and collect your personal information to create your profile. Then from there, after some time, you would be able to integrate other applications with this app. So the ability to integrate Canvas would be a great recommendation that we have. So being able to pull like your assignment due dates and your exams into your Google Calendar, so you can have all of that information in kind of one succinct place, as well as downloading and integrating your other calendar applications that you use elsewhere as well. And then lastly, this is just the intro to what the kind of homepage would look like. So having all of your quickly needed, or access to quickly needed areas. So like your schedules, mindfulness activities, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then being able to access your weekly goals and see that progress as well.
For the personalization stage, we focus more on how to customize the experience for the student assistant app users. All the options in this stage are able to be turned on or off based on the user's preferences and how they plan to utilize the app. So we wanted to focus on offering many services that we thought would be helpful for students. One of the first features we came up with was a study timer. Students could select how long they were planning to study and then have the option to turn on or off the Pomodoro study breaks, which have been found to be more effective in helping students retain the information they're studying. This technique utilizes 25 minutes of focus followed by a 5-minute break. There are some images of the wireframes we created for the study timer here. A second feature we created was around the idea of goal setting. Users could input their goals into the app and input progress on those goals until they completed them. It's actually proven that people are more likely to reach goals when they're written down. So this would be a great option for students. We thought it'd be a good idea that the app users could set different size goals, so daily, weekly, or big goals. And then we broke these down further into some of the bigger aspects of student lives, and some of the aspects student assistant focused on was studying, activity, and wellness. For study goals, the user could utilize the study timer to track progress directly in the app, and for wellness or activity, they could input their progress directly. The third element in the personalization stage is actually mindfulness. We just wanted app users to be able to have a virtual gratitude journal like the current users in the WeSparkle Assistant for business owners. Users are invited to enter in their daily gratitude, and at the end of each month, the user will receive a monthly review of everything they were grateful for, which is what the wireframe shows. They can look back and review what they were grateful for in the past month. And also we played around with the idea of having a social element here where other users could input what they are grateful for about each other. And these messages of affirmation and gratitude would show up in the gratitude review. Another aspect of mindfulness we brought in was the concept of a daily quote. This could be sent out in the morning and give the app user something inspirational to think about throughout their day and set a daily intention around. I think daily quotes can be a huge source of motivation as well. So wanted to offer that through the app as well.
So the third stage is day-to-day use. This is what the app is going to look like on a regular day-to-day basis. So when you open the app, it's going to ask if you want to schedule anything for the week. You can press yes or no. These are going to be the options: Zoom meetings, schedules, mindfulness activities, or weekly goals. And then each of those will open up into their specific category. So example of that is you press schedule. So here's your weekly schedule. It's similar to GCal because we want it to be user friendly, and they're both integrated with each other. Once you add something to this calendar, it'll also be on your GCal. And then you can click on a date and you can add any one of those 4 options to your schedule. Next is the appointment page. So let's say you want to schedule an appointment with someone that you're friends with on there, or maybe someone is on your appointment page, so they can choose from a 30-minute Zoom meeting or a 1-hour Zoom meeting. These can be personalized to however long you would want like people to choose for your Zoom meetings. Like maybe yours says 25 minutes, but we just chose those 2. And then you can also leave gratitude to your friend, as Audrey was talking about. Then they'll get a review at the end of the month of all the gratitude that people have left on their page. And then this is what a booking confirmation would look like. This comes as an email, and then you can also add it to your GCal.
Awesome. So the last section was the motivation stage of our design plan. So we wanted to focus on incorporating aspects that into the design that promote productivity and then allow for collaboration as well. So starting off here is just kind of some wireframes that depict the ability to connect with friends. So these connections, you could do something such as a challenge where you challenge each other, for instance, to like meditate for 15 minutes, or this could be like make sure to drink a gallon of water today or whatever it may be. And this is just kind of to keep that accountability buddy aspect within the app as well. Secondly, here is just kind of a look at what the user will view when checking their goal progress. So checking into their study goals, we kind of drew some inspiration from the Apple Watch circles, but something to this effect just to kind of signify progress. And then once you've completed the goal, you'll be congratulated and rewarded with some confetti there.
So upon completing the wireframes, we actually asked our classmates about the apps we created, and our survey included specific wireframes and asked for feedback on if the feature was useful and some more specific questions about the need for certain components like our study timer and different mindfulness aspects. We also asked about pricing and if the survey participant would actually use the app. This was an important step for us because we wanted to make sure that what we actually created provided value for the students. And we ended up receiving 19 student responses to our survey. The key takeaways from their responses was that the majority of students already utilize some scheduling tool, with 63.2% of students actually currently using Google Calendar. We got overwhelmingly positive responses about the goal setting, mindfulness, and study timer in the app, with 84.2% of students surveyed saying that the goal setting was a useful addition. Overall, 57.9% of those surveyed said they feel they would use the app, but only 68.4% say they would pay a monthly fee for the app. I'll tie this into our later recommendations. Moving on to the recommendations, our final little section here. So we recommend to continue with the multi-purpose use customization options of the app in order to appeal to a larger audience. The ability to turn off and on aspects of the app that the user does and does not feel are necessary, it can be really helpful. Through competitor research, it was obvious that WeSparkle Student Assistant has a true opportunity to generate value in the marketplace with its unique multi-purpose application. And by combining the automated scheduling service like Google Calendar with mindfulness practices, WeSparkle can create the ultimate student-centric helper.
Our second recommendation is continued testing. We want to create the app and then have people try it out and give feedback on how it actually functions once all of the features are included in there. We also think that it'd be good to survey universities or other organizations they might want to partner with and get feedback on the needs of those organizations, because we've only tested students and their thoughts on that.
So tying this back into the university and the survey, we wanted to talk about like the price and the market of the app. After getting feedback from the survey, we think the best way to market this app will be directly to universities or educational programs. These organizations could then purchase bulk subscriptions for their students. And some key subsets we thought of were scholarship programs or tutoring programs, which already have a collection of students.
And our fourth and final recommendation here is kind of relating back to that motivation aspect of the app. So partnering with local businesses in the area of the app launch. So this partnership kind of ties into that motivation aspect, as I mentioned, in addition to being able to like invite your friends and really have that accountability buddy aspect and maintain motivation in that respect. We thought that partnering with businesses in the area, WeSparkle would allow users true incentives to be able to complete and feel motivation towards their goals. So think of like Pocket Points, how that app operated, if you're familiar. It's kind of the similar idea. So if you complete a goal or a series of goals, you're rewarded with, say, 10% off your next purchase at the local coffee shop, something to that effect. So this will not only ensure that users are getting the best experience and stay motivated with the app, but they're also seeing progress towards their goals, and it ensures that WeSparkle has long-lasting relationships with their users as they have a real kind of incentive to keep using the app as well this way. So those are all of our recommendations. We wanted to say a big thank you to Michelle and other folks on the WeSparkle team. We had a wonderful job working with you, and this was a great project for the three of us. Michelle was really gracious with her time and so supportive along the way, really valued her partnership throughout this semester. So thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free.
And Michelle, any comments or questions from your end?
Just so grateful for the team. They did a wonderful job putting together wireframes. And I know that was a big, hairy, audacious goal, but I think they did a fantastic job pulling together and synthesizing some of the features that we already have built out for solopreneurs, but applying it in the context of being a student, which is where they have expertise, because it's been a while since I've been in school. So it was really nice to get their perspective. And I think they came up with some neat ideas of how to use these features and apply it for students.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of not only partnering with, whether it's nonprofit college completion organizations, with universities specifically, but then each of you are involved in so many student groups. And so how can we build kind of that ambassadorship and advocacy within student groups for utilization? Well, if there are no other questions, I really want to say congratulations to each of you on the projects you've successfully completed. As you've heard the words of gratitude from each of your clients, you've done a great job this semester. We'll plan on closing out the class. We have a really short day on Thursday, just wrapping up. But we talked about the student evaluation forms. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes and completing that, I really appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure to work with each of you this semester. Have a great day, and I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.